This is 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr. Chris Radio Horror Program. And tonight on the show, we have a unique guest from a Roger Corman movie. This particular Roger Corman movie, many of you have probably never seen. You can probably find a copy of or watch the documentary about to learn what I'm talking about. We have Jospeh Culp on the show, best known as Dr.Doom in Roger Corman's 1992 Fantastic Four. And this was the first Fantastic Four movie, and recently a documentary has come out to explain what happened with the unreleased movie. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Jospeh.
Thank you for having me.
I've been a fan of this movie since I first saw it at a convention. I was like, what is that? And they're like, have you ever heard of Fantastic Four? But my first, as most people probably were aware of the movie, for the internet was obviously the biggest source of information to find anything. There was a paperback copy of Carnosaur that had come out, and in the back there was an advertisement for the Fantastic Four. And then a few years later, at a Hollywood Video, back in the glorious days of VHS rental, there was of course Carnosaur on VHS, and there was a trailer for Fantastic Four.
Indeed.
In fact, this trailer is probably the only clean footage we have ever seen of the movie. Most of the time, it's bootleg footage of the film.
Bootlegs have gotten better over the years, I have to say. The last one, which I don't know exactly who made it, but it came from a pretty good 3/4-inch tape, I believe, and it's the definitive DVD version, widescreen, with the trailer, with some extras and everything else. And it's just crazy that, frankly, it's just a bootleg, it's, even though it is unofficially released.
There's not that many comic book properties that I can think of that have never been released, and the only other one I am aware of, it was released overseas, but it was never released in the United States, even though it was made by us, was a Gen 13 animated movie.
Really?
Yeah, Gen 13 was a comic book created by Jim Lee and J. Scott Campbell for Image.
Yeah, it made its way up from the terrible VHS to better DVDs as the years went on. And it's truly a singularly ironic story, that's for sure.
Now, before we get into the film, when you see a copy of it, and you see copies of it on YouTube, or you see fans at conventions who have a copy, like you guys had a reuniting recently a couple of years ago, does it upset you that they have copies and you're not making any money off the movie?
Not really. Of course, it would be nice if there was ever an official release, we'd start to see some money, but frankly, the money we'll never see the amount of money that was made on these bootlegs in our lifetimes. There's no way it's possible.
You share a distinct club with the.
Frankly, it doesn't. Just to answer your question, it doesn't really upset me. It actually tickles me in a funny way that the film has gotten so much notoriety after 20 plus years, and people are still talking about it. And now there's even a documentary about it. So it's kind of the last laugh in a certain sense.
It's funny. The documentary came out the same year as Death of Superman Lives, What Happened?
I didn't know that.
Yes, the Nicolas Cage starring, Kevin Smith written, Tim Burton Superman movie, the adaptation of The Death and Return of Superman.
Oh, that just came out this year?
The documentary about it. There was never a movie made. Batman and Robin killed the chances of that movie being made, and Warner Brothers scrapped all the chances. However, it was cast. It was written. Smith signs, you can buy the copies of the script from Smith's website, and there has been test footage revealed and pictures of course, Nicolas Cage in the Superman costume.
See, here's the great difference, of course, is that there actually is an entire Fantastic Four movie, and it was made, and it wasn't released. Many of us have seen it.
Now, what is in a short version, because we can watch Doomed as well, and I really do want to see the documentary. I haven't watched it yet. It was at the Boston Comic Con recently, and I missed it.
Oh, wonderful, yeah.
But I want to watch it. I'm a big fan of this film and Roger Corman. In your own words, what was the reason why the movie was not released?
Well, it's certainly an apocryphal story now, meaning that there are many reasons ascribed to it. But the bottom line is the fact. And the fact is that the German company, Neue Constantine, and the producer Bernd Eichinger had the rights from Marvel to make a Fantastic Four movie. They had it for years, which is often in the 80s, which was called the dark period of Marvel, where not much was really going on, and what did go on wasn't very good. because we certainly, we hadn't got to that point. One, with special effects, and two, with studios realizing what an incredible franchise it was. So Eichinger was going to lose the rights. He was going to lose the rights to make a movie of Fantastic Four unless he went into production. And so when the 11th hour approached and he knew he was going to lose the rights to ever try and sell this as a big budget movie, and that was his plan, he called around and found Roger Corman and said, could you make a Fantastic Four movie for $1 million? And Roger famously said, well, I'll call you back on Monday and I'll let you know. And so they went to work, came up with a budget and said, well, Bernd, I think we could actually make a pretty good little movie. It may not be what you expect, but I think we could do it. And then full steam ahead. By Christmas, it was cast and the Thing suit was made, and we began shooting the next day down at the Corman Stages in Venice, and the rest is history. So what happens is Bernd Eichinger gets to keep the rights to the Fantastic Four. Roger Corman makes a cool little movie that, though it's a bit wacky in terms of some of the special effects because, there was no money for that. It's not a bad little movie. It's got a lot of heart, and certainly everybody really wanted to make the very best film they could. Corman, with no other instructions, was going to go ahead and release it, and that is a fact. He printed 5,000 posters. Many people have them. Pictures. We started doing press junkets at little Comic-Cons. San Diego we did LA. We did one in Florida. And by all accounts, it was going to get released, and everybody was excited. And then maybe weeks before the actual release of the film, Eichinger calls Corman and says, I'm going to exercise my clause in the contract to buy the film from you. And I'm going to pay you more than what you spent and then some. And he did that. And Corman said, well, all right, I'm a little disappointed, but here you go. And Constantine took a hold of the assets of that film, the prints, the negatives, whatever existed of it. And it was swept out from under everybody and is secreted in some vault somewhere on this planet, most likely in Germany, I think, but it could be in LA. And Eichinger then was able to leverage and make a deal with Fox to make the Fantastic Four as a big multi-million-dollar picture. It took 13 more years for that to take place. Then there was the first film. Not everybody was very thrilled with it. They made a second one with Silver Surfer. Nobody was really thrilled with that. And it languished further, and now they've made a third film. And no one's happy with this one either. And so I submit to you that our film was made to keep a contractual right to make a film. Was it planned to never be released? I don't believe that. And not many people do. Because why not release a film? It'll make somebody some money. But Eichinger felt differently, and he made sure it was not released. And whatever his deal with Fox was probably guaranteed that. And so it went bye-bye. And then a couple years later, we start seeing the tapes surfacing in Comic-Cons, and the rest is history. Now, that's the short thumbnail version of the Fantastic Four story.
Now, who do you think was the deep throat to get the tape out? That person. Male or female?
I'm not sure. Avi Arad of Marvel claims that he somehow, negotiated the deal to get the film. So that could mean that Marvel has it? Well, okay, maybe. But I think Eichinger was a very shrewd businessman, and if I was him, I would have had everybody, I would have had it shipped out. And I believe Corman shipped it to him. I mean, why wouldn't he? That would be part of the deal. So it's not as secretive as all that, but I don't know. The answer is it could be Avi Arad. It could be, it was simpler than we think. And there could have been some shadowy figure who snuck in and stole everything out of Corman's vault, because I know the director was sniffing around trying to find a print after all that went down. He couldn't find anything. It was gone, every bit of it.
My theory is that it
Yes.
was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. In fact, it would have been the Jack Kirby would have been able to see this movie before he passed away in 1994. So I think the two of them conspired together to get this out to the public.
Interesting theory.
Yes.
Interesting theory. I don't know if I can support it, but it's possible.
They would have been in their 70s, but hey, you know.
No. You never know. No. It's a very strange tale.
I think you only
There are
share.
many films there are stories about many films that were almost made and that were going to be made, but never a story about an entire movie that was made and never released. That's very rare.
I believe there's a Jerry Lewis movie that has never been released that he
That's
made.
true. That is true.
About the Holocaust or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it called the sad clown, the clown who never laughed? I think.
Correct.
Yeah. That is true. And, he probably has very good reasons for that because he went a little too far. But, Fantastic Four, come on, you can never go too far. And
No,
therein
there's
lies
nothing
the mystery.
offensive about
And
the
I also
movie
will
or
submit
anything.
this, that more recently I've thought about it because of the third installment, which fans have really turned their back on, and probably with good reason. And I think, to put it mildly, it's a kind of curse, you see, because there are theories about systems and family systems and business systems and systems of energy in any kind of deal. And one of the rules is if you don't honor a predecessor in some way, could be a parent or a grandparent or the owner, the original owner of a business, if that's not honored in the chain of events, things don't go well. Things are not well. And I think that because everything was sort of hushed up about the first film, that it's had a hard time ever finding its footing, It's like maybe if that film had been released, there would have been better versions of the Fantastic Four. Who knows? But so far, nobody seems to have ever captured the true spirit of the comic except for the Corman film. And most fans that I meet to this day, whether at Comic-Cons or people who ask me for pictures and autographs, they tell me that over and over. So I'm bound to believe them.
Well, the one thing you can definitely say to be true is the story is definitely intact. As god awful as, let's say, their ride up in the rocket ship is, and the astronaut costumes are just hideous. The Dr. Doom costume is the only one out of four four films. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like Dr. Doom.
Looks like the real deal.
Yeah. I mean, I also thought the Thing costume looked good for the time period. You know what I mean?
The Thing costume looks terrific.
Yeah.
It looks like the Thing.
I mean, the Thing looks like the Thing now as well, except for the fact he has no penis.
Well, you see, but he had his blue underwear. See.
It just you didn't watch the new one, I'm assuming.
I haven't seen it.
No. Okay. I loved it. There was a great little montage. They lined up all the Doctor Dooms next to each other, next to like the one drawn by Jim Lee where he's holding a chalice or whatever, and saying, how hard is it to get it right?
Yeah. How hard is it? Those guys at Optic Nerve who made my suit and the Thing suit, they just went to the comic and they, with very little money, they cast my limbs and my legs and my arms and my chest, and they made me these pieces. And they did a great job. And the Doom looks just spot on. So, not to mention, that what we tried to do in terms of how I wanted to render Doom, and that was after the classic comic style, which I think is what we want in a Dr. Doom. I mean, let's face it. He is the man. He's the glorious, tyrant king. He is supreme in his narcissism and his rule of law and his power, and that's missing from the other films.
Yeah, I mean, there's three things they need to put into it: dictator, magic, technology.
And there you go.
And in none of the films, with the exception of yours, you were a dictator. They didn't really show you kingdom and everything so much, but you got the point that he was a ruler. And
hungry for power.
Exactly. In Tim Story's movies, he was a humanitarian CEO. Yeah. But again, this thing about magic and technology, which they've captured very well, like in Thor's movie, because Thor explains to Jane Foster how his realm of Asgard is technology and magic one and the same. And I was like, that's exactly like what Doctor Doom should be. To him, it's one and the same.
Yeah. It's always been the mixture of magic and technology in the black arts.
Was there any difficulty wearing the costume? Any problems? I noticed, like, talking, you sound like Bane at times from Batman.
Yeah. Well, there are several things about the complications of that do appear. Most of us excuse them, but they're there. No, the performance and the wearing of the costume, that went all right. I've gone on record, and it's in the new documentary, that it was a grueling experience, and I'll make no bones about it. It was, it wasn't that it was heavy, it's just that it was really intense, and the heat and the edges that cut into my skin, and it was a bit torturous. And yet I knew instinctively that, well, that must be used. Just pour it into the character,
Because Doom is tortured inside that armor.
You have this intense sort of frustrated rage, if you will. So that was tough, but I was game for it. And then there's the issue of the mask, and the director, to his credit, he really wanted to keep my performance. He was really happy with what I did, and I did everything he really wanted me to do, and then some. And so he didn't want me to have to go in and re-record everything. Unfortunately, the sound on a Roger Corman movie, and particularly with the constraints of that suit, it's just very muffly at times. You can notice the pieces I did re-record where the audio is quite clear, such as the final monologues and a few other places. But I didn't do all of it, and I was very confused at the time, saying, "Oh, I really should do all of it." So there's a quality of difference, all of which could be cleaned up, by the way, if anyone gave a shit and would want to resurrect the film and restore it. We could clean up all of that audio. But yes, it's always been a little thorn in my side that we couldn't get the audio just right. But frankly, it hasn't been lost. It doesn't seem to detract from how people feel about my performance. So it works out. It seemed to work out okay.
Did you see? I sent you a link on Twitter. Cinema Snob did a review recently of Corman's Fantastic Four movie. He covers B movies usually, and in honor of the new film, of course, he was like, "It's time to discuss the new." Do a new review on the original Fantastic Four. Have you seen that?
I have not seen it. Is it mean or is it nice?
It is hilarious.
Okay.
He acts like a snob when he reviews his movies. He's like, "Oh, well, that's the way they want to play that character."
I see.
Yeah, he plays it for laughs. He does like serious. He does, and I'm stretching this word when I say serious movies. He's done some of the Friday the 13th movies and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So again, I'm stretching that word when I say serious films.
I get it. Well, people have always had, people are very, have a lot of fun tearing apart the film. And certainly you can do an MST3000 on it, no problem.
I think there's been one done on it. Isn't there? Actually, you can download it from your website. I mean, not your website, but the Doom website.
Really? Did they ever do what is it?
I swear, I don't think it's the MST3K guys or Riff Tracks, Mike Nelson and Jim, but I think there is a no, I'm sorry. So there's a commentary for the Fantastic Four movie.
No, I never did that.
Oh, yeah, it's on the Doom website. I don't know who's doing the commentary because again, I haven't downloaded it. Doing it independently.
Did the other actors actually do that?
You'd have to check out the Doom website. It's on their site.
Okay.
Yeah, unless it's a commentary for the Doom documentary, which seems a little ridiculous to do a commentary about a documentary.
I don't think they would have done it that soon.
No, but
he just released it.
Almost positive it's a Doom. No. It's a
commentary. You can take the piss out of the movie, but what you can't argue with, if you're a fan of comic books, is that it's actually kind of fun, and it's funny, and it's tongue in cheek, and the director made all the right choices, I believe. He made the right choices in that it was a small budget, and so you had to make the most out of character and irony and tongue in cheek, and he did that, and I think he did a good job.
Now, who is the director of the Fantastic Four?
The original Fantastic Four movies directed by Oli Sassoon.
Okay.
And Oli is director, hails out of New Orleans, and he made several films and was here in Hollywood for a while, and eventually, I don't know if it was Fantastic Four and, feeling really bitter about it or not, but he went back to New Orleans, and he works there, and he also produces, and he's still at it, and he came to the big premiere of this Doom documentary the week before last.
Yeah, it says right here, commentary track, audio commentary accompanying 1994 Fantastic Four movie. First time ever, gathering the cast, provide inside depth, scene-specific commentary, reveal secrets, gossip, and stories.
Wow. No, if I did it, I can't remember, and it's likely maybe it was spearheaded by someone else in the cast. I mean, all this stuff is so unofficial. It's officially unofficial.
It's officially unofficial. I like the little prize pack that you can buy from the Doomed website with all sorts of different things, including like a copy of the theatrical poster and such. Now, you guys all united for the first time since the movie for a convention a couple years ago.
We did. It was St. Louis.
That must have been a lot of fun because you guys probably hadn't been together since the movie was filmed, correct?
I think we had seen each other, not everybody, like Jay Underwood. I hadn't seen Jay since the movie.
But you were all there,
left
correct?
Acting, and he went and became a minister. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he did. And he's very happy doing that. But he does show up for some of these reunions. And so I think I'd seen Alex and Rebecca. It started, I think we did one comic book store appearance a few years ago. But that one was everybody came together, including the director. And they were really terrific. They flew us in. We tabled with a lot of other people. They did lots of video interviews, and they, unofficially screened the film for an audience of at least 100 people, I think, maybe more. And people just clapped and cheered, and they loved it, and it was really sweet. So yes, screenings have taken place.
Do you have a favorite memory from the movie?
My favorite memory from the movie, oh my, we shot it on such a tight schedule that we were just flying by the seat of our pants.
How many weeks?
I had to be no more than 4-week shoot.
Okay. And you also played Victor Von Doom in the beginning of college, correct?
Yes, indeed.
That, by the way, is right there another reason why I think this movie could have worked on better levels with a little bit more money and stuff like that and gotten released, because this is out of all the films, this is the only one to show Ben, Reed, and Doom actually in college together. They're college roommates. They're college friends.
Right.
Victor goes a little nuts with his whole obsession with the Outer Limits and stuff like that, but
that's how it all started, and it was the script was really smart. If you take Craig Nevis's script and look at it, you say, well, he really made good choices here to honor the comic, to give it full, the reasons why they, what happened, what turned them into superheroes. And he starts at the beginning, which is in college. And that I really love that. I love that I got to play Victor as a kind of a slightly acerbic, but a little bit softer, and a little bit of a promise that something was going to happen, that there was something in his character that was a little dark. And I gave a few hints of it here and there in those opening scenes. But I agree. I think it's marvelous that that there's a mystery, and then it's at the midpoint in the story that Reed figures it out. He goes, "Oh my God, it's Victor. Victor's alive." So the best story I can tell you is this, and I tell it unreservedly. So one of the scenes I got to go out to shoot, and I've got my full gear on. I've got the suit, I've got the gun, I've got all my pieces. I always wait to put on my mask at the last minute because it's so bloody hot. and it has to be fixed with the cowl and everything else. And I come out of my dressing room on the dilapidated Corman stages, and people really got into what I was doing with Doom, and so the crew starts chanting Doom, 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 and they're chanting in the hallway. And I turn, and there's beautiful Rebecca Staub in her blue spandex, standing right there, looking like the perfect Sue Storm. And I grab her by the waist, and I plant a big kiss right on her, which she totally accepts. And everybody goes, yeah, and cheers. And they chant Doom, Doom, Doom as I go charging out onto the soundstage to do the scene. And that was pretty much the high point, I would say. To feel like I was not only having fun as the character and enjoying the power of it, but also that I was doing something that was connected to so many people in terms of, what they wanted Doom to be.
Now, of course, you also started out on another superhero-related show, The Greatest American Hero.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, you guys, because of my pedigree, so to speak, my father being a very, very famous actor, and in many genre films too. I mean, he started he did some of the most iconic Outer Limits, and
I did not know that.
Yeah, did you ever see, The Demon with the Glass Hand by Harlan Ellison? It's
Oh my
probably one of
God.
the most famous pieces of television ever made.
And he was on
And
one of
that's
my favorite
father.
cartoons, Gargoyles.
Gargoyles I'm not aware of.
It was a
but
Disney
that's
animated show in the 90s.
Okay. No, my father did, was a major star and did a lot of television and movies. And Spectre was for Gene Roddenberry. A lot of really cool stuff. And of course, The Greatest American Hero in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I did my first piece of television on his show.
And The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which he was on The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which came out, just had a movie coming out starring Superman's Henry Cavill.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this. See, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was sort of the follow-up to, and it was at the same time, actually, as my father's show, which was called I Spy.
Oh,
I Spy
yes.
was probably one of the most famous shows on television because of it pairing a black actor and a white actor for the first time.
With the infamous Bill Cosby.
Say it again.
With the infamous Bill Cosby.
The infamous Bill Cosby.
Yes.
That was another time.
Yes.
But, Man from U.N.C.L.E., my dad turned that down. They offered it to him, and he said, no, it's too many gadgets. It's not interesting enough. And I Spy was the one that actually blew the doors off of, racism in television. So it was a pretty significant show. But anyway, he and my dad started out also as a comic book artist. So
oh, wow. That's cool.
He loved comics. Yeah, before he was going to be an actor, as a teenager, he drew comics.
Huh.
And he drew everything you can think of. And so growing up, there was a love of comics, a love of, fantasy and horror all over my house. And so when it came time for me to do Dr. Doom, are you kidding? It was just slipping into a glove, or a suit for that matter.
And I remember your dad was on an episode of, speaking of comics, he was on an episode of, this is more pulp, but he's been in comics so often. He was on an episode of Conan. He played a king. I don't remember the king's name, but...
Wow, did he really?
Yeah, he did. It was in an episode. They had Red Sonja in the episode too. It was a short-lived Conan TV series. And I was going through IMDb, and I noticed you were also one of my favorite science history movies. I was gonna say science fiction, but science history movies. Apollo 13.
Oh yeah, you betcha. Yeah, I was the electrical engineer of the lunar module. I was in a lot of scenes, mostly, as support for Ed Harris and everybody else, but I was one of the, mission control guys. Yeah.
And what are you working on right now?
Well, I just finished writing and directing a feature film, and that film is finished and is going to premiere in Norway at the Nordkapp Film Festival next, on September 9th.
Cool. The Men's Group.
It's now titled Welcome to the Men's Group. It is a comedy drama about a men's group that meets one morning with some rather disastrous results. And it's a lot of fun. It has the actor Timothy Bottoms, Stephen Tobolowsky, Mackenzie Aston, and David Clennon, who was in The Thing and several other things. So wonderful cast, and I'm also in it. I also am one of the co-stars, and I've worked on that for a couple of years now, and it's a very special film, and I hope it's going to get a lot of notice and a wider release very soon.
Oh, and how was it working on Mad Men? Such a very popular show.
Mad Men was a good experience. I was very lucky. I got to play this rather, I don't know, somewhat significant role of the father of Don Draper, who is this ornery, drunken farmer, and it was good. I got to play some interesting scenes, and people call out and recognize me as Archie Whitman, and it's very nice to be connected with that special show. It was certainly one of the best pieces of television anybody's ever seen, so I'm very pleased about that.
Very extremely popular show for AMC.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, I was just wondering, were you a big fan of the comics before you were in Fantastic Four, and did you ever get to meet Jack or Stan?
So I was, as I said, I grew up with comics. I grew up with a lot of horror films and artwork and everything around the house, and from my father's career as well. And so, and I would say that the Fantastic Four, of all the comics, and this is just weird karma, who knows, was probably the one that really stood out to me. I mean, I like Spider-Man, Superman, not so much. I would say the Fantastic Four, there was something about it, maybe because there was 4 superheroes and they were all a bit mutated. They were freaks, and I think I gravitated toward that idea, feeling like a freak myself in some ways. And I always knew about Fantastic Four. I was a fan of it. I wasn't diehard. I didn't know all the issues. But when I got the call to go and audition for the film, I said, "Are you kidding? The Fantastic Four? Dr. Doom?" And I just went for it. I just said, "This is something I've got to give everything. I've got to go for it." And when I got cast as Dr. Doom, I went and picked up numerous issues and started devouring them again and looking for all the clues about how I was going to perform Dr. Doom. So I did not meet Stan or Jack. I've seen Stan at Comic-Con a few times, but we're not friends. And that's in a nutshell my early relationship with Fantastic Four.
Are you aware what Dr. Doom's doing right now?
I'm not. My son is, because when asked in this documentary, in fact, that you'll see in Doom, is there anything that you can say you really got out of this? Obviously, you didn't make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, yeah, one, most important is I got to be the first Dr. Doom, and no one's ever going to take that away from me, no matter what.
Nope.
And secondly, I get a lot of fans who think I did a really terrific job, and they approve. Thirdly, and maybe most important, my son, and I have a son, he's 21 now, and Jackson grew up, and as soon as I could introduce him to the notion that there was something called Dr. Doom with a little action figure, and then there was this movie that nobody else had, he started watching it from the time, probably by 3 years old, 3 to 4, and he was imitating Dr. Doom, running around the house, doing my laugh to a T, and just like a little guy laughing like a madman. And I got to watch him grow up loving Dr. Doom, reading comics, and then, lap dissolve, a few years later, we're at Comic-Con, and he's an older teen then. He finds this amazing Dr. Doom mask made by a true armorer, right? A beautiful metal mask that you can fix on your head, and with a beautiful green velvet, cowl and everything. And that begins his cosplay years as Dr. Doom.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there's pictures of him in the documentary even that I gave the director. I said, well, take a look at this. So I would go and table to do autographs, and he'd walk around cosplaying Dr. Doom, looking just fantastic. And so that was a big bonus, that I didn't expect.
Dr. Doom currently is God. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Marvel's restructuring the universe, and like DC did many years ago, and there's like the New 52. Long story short, the Marvel universe was destroyed. The Ultimate Universe was destroyed. There is nothing left except for the battle world of the Secret Wars. Every book was canceled, and Doom was sneaking behind the backs of his allies and killing the Beyonders, absorbing their powers. And then he, with the help of Doctor Strange and the Molecule Man, recreated the universe in his image. And there is basically little patchworks of land all over the planet containing like what if universes for different stories in the Marvel universe. And some of them are aware of that God is called Doom, and some of them have no idea what the other characters are talking about when they say, "You know, our God is Doom, don't you?" And they're like, "What are you talking? Who? What? Who the hell? You talking about Doctor Doom?" And they're like, "Don't ever. No, Doom is his name, like Madonna." And he wears a white costume, by the way, and he's only revealed his face to Susan, because in the recreation of the universe, Reed is dead. Susan is his like kind of companion, but I don't think they have a intimate relationship. Oh, and her kids are involved with him as well. And Reed is alive, and he's on a lifeboat with Spider-Man and Star-Lord and a couple of Captain Marvel and Black Panther and a couple other characters. And Doom's face looks like he has like leprosy right now. His nose is missing, his teeth are all jagged, and one of his eyes is kind of drooping. He looks like a mess. And they actually revealed Doom's face or whatever in the 4th issue of the Secret Wars. And at the all the covers are drawn by Alex Ross, who drew Marvels. And
I know Alex Ross.
Yep. But they're out right now. You can pick them up, and you can read how Doom is God now. He finally did it. He is in control. And there's a famous cover of Dr. Doom from an issue of the original Secret Wars from the 80s where Doom is on one knee or whatever, and he's powering up his gauntlets, and his armor is all beat up, and it says Doom stands alone against the Beyonder. You know, and it's this great iconic image of Doom trying to fight the Beyonder.
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
And yes, I think my son has a recent book of all the Secret Wars, and he is studying up on the exploits of Doom. That's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Doom should be God. There's no question.
The other great iconic image is of Thor's hammer's upside down. You can see Doom's gauntlet grabbing the hammer of Thor.
Wow.
He doesn't actually be able to pick it up in the comic, let's face it. But there is a great little image of Thor's hammer upside down, and you know whose gauntlet that is that's wielding that's holding onto the handle. Because at this time Thor was dead. But hey, Joseph, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I've been a fan of this movie for long before I even could find a copy of it.
Right.
And it's been a delight talking to you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And make sure to tell everybody to look for this documentary, Doomed, the true story, the untold story of Roger Corman's The Fantastic Four. You'll find out a lot of good, interesting information and secrets and nefarious doings. And it's one step further to possibly, mounting a real petition to get the film finally released.
Hey, Joe, you know what? I mean, how many years was it before Batman ever got released on DVD and Blu-ray, and it finally happened? It could happen with Fantastic Four.
It could indeed.
Yeah, and let's face it, Batman had a lot bigger mess than the Fantastic Four did in terms of legal battles and rights and stuff, because that was a TV series with so many actors and stuff. This is one movie.
It'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God willing, they'll throw a little money at it and maybe even fix up some of the shots, and I'll get to re-record some Dr. Doom. But if not, it'll still be a nice piece of justice finally.
Definitely. And we look forward to your many new projects. Hope to one day meet you at a convention, hopefully in New England.
I hope so too. And look for my new film, Welcome to the Men's Group, in the next few months. We should be out there with it. And as Dr. Doom would say, here's to the future, my friend.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.